Set. Places, everybody. And action.
It's time once again for the Hooked on Movies podcast, our Christmas edition. And we are celebrating 25 years.
30 years.
30 years. We are
40
celebrating
years,
30 years.
60
Do I hear
years.
50? We are celebrating 30 years of Tim Allen's The Santa Claus. With me is Ken.
Seeing isn't believing. Believing is seeing.
And Ted.
Eric, what are you talking about? Everybody likes Denny's. It's an American institution.
Damn right.
Moons over Miami.
That's right.
Exactly.
And I want to say to everyone, Merry Christmas to all, and to all a good night. And when I wake up, I'm getting a CAT scan.
Should have got one earlier.
Should have got
Yeah.
one earlier. Just couldn't afford it. It's been a fun week for all, I'm sure. What's going on, Ken?
Work, work, work. Christmas
Work, work.
party.
You're like an elf in Santa's workshop.
Except it's in Indonesia.
Or the governor in Blazing Saddles. Work, 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 work.
Work, work, work. Hello, boys. How we doing today?
Yes, that's right.
We've just been doing shopping, watched this movie a couple times, and I haven't really watched anything else outside of sports.
Okay.
Sports,
Yeah, we're
sports,
kind of in the
sports.
same boat a little bit. All right.
Sprouts.
How about Ted?
How about Ted?
Well, we watched the series finale of Yellowstone.
I don't want to just
I
stop.
won't,
Okay.
I won't say anything
Okay.
other than it was good.
Okay, it's fine.
I watched a movie I hadn't seen before. It's called About Time. It stars Domhnall Gleeson and the lady who stars in The Notebook. I can't think of her name.
Adams?
Rachel McAdams, yes, thank you. It's a very interesting movie. I enjoyed it. I watched Anyone But You again. I like that movie. I thought that movie's pretty funny. So it just kind of kept it a little bit light and fun that way. How about you, Eric?
Yeah, light week for me too. Just watched football, watched the end of season 4 of Yellowstone, so I need to
Yes.
kick into 5. So that's why I don't want to
Get
hear
ready.
anything about it.
Yeah, get ready.
A few podcasts here and there, and I did watch something significant, which I thought was incredibly good. I watched on HBO Max. I watched the Christopher Reeve documentary.
Okay.
Very good.
What you said about the documentary reminded me. I watched on Netflix The Kings of Tupelo about this guy from Tupelo, Mississippi. He and his brother are both Elvis impersonators, but he was charged with attempting to kill the President Obama.
Interesting.
By sending rice in the mail.
I remember the rice and stuff. Yeah.
Yes. And it's a trip, man. And these guys they're pretty wild, but I won't give anything away because it is worth the time to watch because it's pretty crazy. It's a crazy story.
Cool. All right. Well, going back to 1994, when's the first time you saw this movie, Ken?
I went to see this at the theater with some of my friends.
Friends?
How old were
You?
they?
Or like 8?
It's 22 when this movie came out.
And the kids were
Yeah.
8 and 10 and
So you went to see this with adults?
Yep, though it's like Tim Allen at this time. Let's not forget,
Yeah,
at this
that's
time,
true.
Tim Allen had the #1 TV show, the #1 book,
yes,
and the #1 movie.
That's right.
Yes, he did.
Top of the world for the man.
He was something.
We enjoyed it because I remember watching it with my friend Jay, and there was a part where Santa's shaking the belly, and we referenced one of his ex-girlfriends when we did it, and he just started like chucking up laughing.
That's freaking hilarious.
How about you, Ed?
94. I mean,
Think back.
I know we didn't see it in the movie theater, so we would have had to have rented it. I don't know if we waited till the following Christmas or what, but I know we didn't see it in the movie theater, or my sister and I, so because I was in high school, so I would have been, I believe, so 94 into 95, I would have been entering my sophomore year of high school. And plus, around this time, too, I was heavily involved with my high school basketball team. I was the manager of the basketball team. So, yeah, I wouldn't have had time to go to the movies.
Yeah, I don't know when I saw this movie first. It's a blur to me.
Yeah, it's hard.
Probably sometime in the late 90s. Who knows?
I will add it was a Thanksgiving movie probably at that particular time because we have a tradition the day before,
Right,
the day of or
right.
day after Thanksgiving, me and my friends go see a movie. And this was
Yeah.
logically the movie to go see at that time.
Yeah,
Did you do it this year?
Yeah, we went to see Red One.
That's on either Netflix or HBO
It's
or
on
one of
Prime.
them now. Is
It's
it
on
Prime? That's right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
or you
Yeah.
can get it through Plex.
The movie that I see the most, I think, around Thanksgiving is James Bond movies. They usually are released a lot in the
Yeah, we saw a James Bond movie together.
yeah. No, we saw No Time to Die.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, we did.
Cool. All right. Well, the big question: what qualifies you to review this movie, Ted?
What qualifies me to review this movie?
Tread lightly.
Sits on a park bench waiting for kids to sit on his lap.
Thought we
Wow.
were keeping this clean.
Yeah. This is
That's
the
pretty clean.
Christmas-
It's in the movie for
it's
crying
a
out loud.
Christmas, a Christmas.
Yeah, but we're talking about
episode.
Ted.
So what qualifies me? I've actually seen a live reindeer. So,
Me too.
but it didn't fly.
I used to work for the Walter Payton's Roundhouse, which is now called Two Brothers, and they
They
do
serve reindeer, don't they?
They serve reindeer
Yeah.
Do
On
they?
a-
Yeah, wow, yeah.
on a big plate.
Yeah.
I hit a reindeer once with my car. No,
Yeah,
that was just a
okay.
regular deer.
Yeah.
How about
You
you?
hit a deer in the rain.
In the rain.
In the
yeah, I
rain.
was just going to
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, deer in
How
the
about-
rain.
How about you, Eric? What about you?
Well, I, on the holiday seasons, have ruined a meal or two. So I can relate to his wanting to go to Denny's to get away from the turkey that caught on fire.
I do remember going to a Denny's once on Christmas Eve, not because of turkey, but there was years back where a bunch of people I knew hung out at Denny's for the longest time, and it was just randomness. And sometimes people just hang out at Denny's, and that was one of those times.
Maybe I'll go to Denny's this Christmas.
Maybe you will.
Let's come down and visit us.
Maybe I'll go to Denny's this year for Christmas.
I see how you.
In
I see how
Quincy.
you're operating. No, there's no Denny's in Quincy.
I find that hard to believe. There is no Denny's in Quincy?
No.
Really?
It's not anymore.
Perkins?
No.
Waffle House?
Unfortunately,
Huh.
no.
That's
because
weird.
I would guess where I would be living. I'd be living
the
at the
Waffle
Waffle
House?
House because Waffle House is a freaking amazing.
Not all Waffle Houses are
Yeah,
made alike, though.
It's freaking something. I don't know if I'd use the
awesome.
word amazing. It's hit or
It
miss.
is so good.
We
My
went to
God.
one in Indianapolis, and it was the worst food I've ever had in my life.
You're not far enough south,
Well, I've been to one in Atlanta.
really, and it wasn't
Oh, yeah.
good. And
Huh?
It wasn't good. It wasn't good.
Food was okay, and the service was very, very bad. And the
Sketchy.
funny thing is, the service to everyone else, you could definitely tell it was like everyone knew everybody
Right,
in this
right?
place.
What do you got there in Quincy that is equivalent to those places?
Applebee's.
I feel like Applebee's is
I
like
love
a step above
Applebee's.
that. But that's a step above a Denny's and everything.
Hannibal has a country kitchen.
The Country Kitchen's the gay gourmet. Yeah.
Or
Well, that's
the mic-
Happy Chef.
Or the
That's Happy
micro
Chef.
or the microwave gourmet.
Yeah.
Because they're notorious for microwaving their stuff.
I think Happy Chef went out of business.
I think so.
Hey, we've turned this into a review of restaurants.
Culinary, yeah.
Culinary,
episode.
that's right. So
I do miss,
God
I do
damn,
miss Perkins.
I do too.
I wished no Perkins was. Blech.
No, Perkins. I love Perkins.
We used to have one here in Bolingbrook.
I want to
Yeah.
go to now. I
It
want to
used
go
to
to
be,
Waffle
it
House.
then turned into an Aurelio's, and then it's now it's I think it's a hotel now, right where the
A hotel.
A hotel?
Wow, that's a stretch.
well,
How do you go
well,
from
the,
Perkins?
Oh, they knocked it down. They knocked it down.
the
Okay.
Aurelio's burned down. The Aurelio's burned down.
I was about to say that's a hell of a fucking stretch.
It used to be right across the street from Old Chicago,
Yeah,
right
makes
next
sense.
to the Kmart.
That makes sense. Well, we'd love to hear about your favorite restaurants, everybody. So why don't you email Ken via Facebook or via hooked_on_movies
Yeah.
with X and
Tell
Twitter.
us, do you miss Bennigan's or do you miss
I like Bennigan's.
That's
Bennigan's?
okay.
Do you miss?
We went there after prom one time.
Perkins? Yeah. Okay. Well, at least you didn't go there for prom.
Would have been better.
Probably. Yeah.
Maybe.
What else would I miss? Oh, the Dorkening Network. Our friends on the Dorkening Network. Hello, dorks. We miss you. So, what else? Can anything good with
Check out-
Facebook?
Yeah,
Articles?
check out some of their podcasts on the Dorkening Network. We will be having an ad that will be popping up through some of their podcasts. Listen close.
It's
Really?
a restaurant ad.
It's a restaurant
It's
ad.
a restaurant ad. Yeah, it's
That's
right.
right.
It's an ad for Perkins.
Okay.
Hooked on foodie.
On foodies.
Yeah,
on
hooked on
foodies.
foodies.
You know what we do have? We have a Village Inn. That's what would be the equivalent.
Okay. I've been to a Village Inn.
Okay, yeah.
Nothing wrong with the Village Inn.
Pies are good.
Is it a
Yeah.
24/7 place?
Not sure.
Denny's is a 24/7 place.
Well,
You
yeah,
need a
because
24/7.
Denny's is amazing. We'd go there after the concerts when I'd go to concerts.
What's the other
Kevin and I.
24/7 place I'm thinking of? Oh, IHOP. You have an IHOP?
Yeah. Oh no, we
No
had
IHOP,
one
no.
briefly, and then it closed its
We
doors
don't have
randomly.
an IHOPs anymore.
I don't think so. You're right.
The one
After For COVID, they stopped being
COVID killed
24/7.
IHOP, kind of
All right.
fucking
Cooking
COVID.
with Ken. All right. Particulars with Ted.
Let's talk about The Santa Claus. Is directed by John Pasquin. It was a screenplay by Leo Benvenuti and Steve Rudnick. It has a running time of 97 minutes. It had a release date of November 11th, 1994. It had a budget of $22 million. It made $190.3 million, which seems a little low for a Christmas movie. On Rotten Tomatoes, it has a certified fresh 73% critic score, and it has an audience score of 66%. And the IMDb rating is right there with the audience score at 6.6. The Santa Claus stars Tim Allen as Scott Calvin, a.k.a. Santa Claus, Eric Lloyd as Charlie Calvin, Wendy Crewson as Laura Miller, Judge Reinhold as Dr. Neil Miller, David Krumholtz as Bernard the Head Elf, Paige Tamada as Judy the Elf, Peter Boyle as Mr. Whittle, Larry Brandenburg as Detective Nunzio, Jane Eastwood as Judy the Waitress, Kenny Vadas as the Elf's leader, the ELFS leader, Steve Vinovich as Dr. Pete Novos, and Melissa King as Sarah. I think that is all of the particulars.
I know there's Mary Gross is in there as Miss Daniels.
Oh yes, Mary
From
Gross.
Saturday Night Live fame,
Yes,
and I'm
yes.
using that word very loosely.
That you are
Yes, I
stretching.
am.
You are
So,
stretching.
If we have any SNL fans, they might know Mary Gross from the early '80s.
Yes.
Then again, they might not.
Probably not, because nobody tuned into those episodes.
It's a bad cast, but it's okay.
It was a horrible cast. It was probably the low point for Saturday Night Live.
Almost got canceled. Yep.
Well, yeah, it was on the precipice of being canceled.
That's why they had Saturday night's main event wrestling once a month
That's one of the reasons, yes.
because they felt they needed to fill the time zone.
Well,
Time
look at
slot.
that. Ken is filled with all bunch of tidbits.
Is this
What a
time
great
for
segue. It's time
is-
for Ken's tidbits.
Is it time for Ken's tidbits?
It
Eric?
is.
Do 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 do. Ken's tidbits.
Ken's tidbits.
You guys just like my tidbits.
I love your tidbits.
Oh, I love
Yeah.
your tidbits. Put them on my lips.
Yeah, baby.
It's on my
Yeah.
lips.
All right. What do you got for us, Ken?
All right. Well, of course, filming took place in Toronto during the summer, even though this film is suggested to be in the wintry city of the Chicago suburbs, right? So
Yeah.
Is it really?
Yeah, you didn't
Yeah.
see the Chicago plates on the car, Illinois plates on the cars? Well, it's like Shermer, Illinois, you know?
it's like a big suburb. But
remember?
the one
Yeah.
guy's driving, I think, a Chicago Tribune.
Yeah.
Oh, he is?
Toronto.
Yeah, and the deer, he's trying to get the deer to I-94 for some reason. So, Toronto, huh?
Of course, because
Toronto.
Toronto serves as Chicago
Yes, it does.
all the time in movies.
Yes, it does.
In fact, that's a Toronto Denny's. That is a Toronto
Is
Denny's. That's
it?
Toronto
one of the
A boot.
Denny's.
first Denny's that Canada ever had.
No kidding.
Interesting.
That's a
Very
wonderful tidbit, Ken.
It's no longer
That
a
is a
Denny's.
wonderful.
wonderful tidbit.
It's a
Oh,
Tim
of
Hortons.
course it's not. Of
It
course
didn't,
it's not. a
it didn't
Denny's.
look like a U.S. Denny's because I've been in a lot of Denny's, and that was like one of the nicest looking Denny's I've ever
A
seen
lot
in
of
my
maple
life.
syrup in that Denny's.
So as far as who was up for leads and stuff like that, well, we'll start off with the fact that they wanted Chris Columbus to do this to direct this movie, right?
Well, that
'Cause,
makes sense, coming off Home Alone.
in fact, they wanted to get a lot of the Home Alone elements into that, but I'll get to that in just a minute here. So the role of Scott Calvin was written with Bill Murray in mind.
I read
I could see that.
That's
But after reading the script,
interesting.
he didn't think his comedy was the right fit for the.
No, because it's not. Because
He's
Bill
got
Murray's comedy though is more acerbic.
It could be condescending like Tim Allen's comedy
God, it
is.
can be very condescending.
But Tim Allen's not. He plays this straight.
No, he plays it a little condescending. He makes fun of Neil like left and right.
Well, yeah, because Neil's a tool.
Mhm.
I mean,
I think he called him a tool once in it.
Yeah, but I don't know. It just doesn't seem like Bill Murray. It just doesn't seem. I agree with Bill Murray. This doesn't seem like his comedy to me.
Chevy Chase was also considered, but scheduling conflicts
have
with
mercy.
another film forced him out.
What
What
film
he-
would that be?
What exact?
I
What
don't know, in
film
1993,
exactly
94?
was he doing? Was it Man of the House? Because that's garbage.
No,
That's
there's
the
worse
low
movies
point
than
of Chevy
that.
Chase's career.
No,
It's,
there's much lower than that. Nothing But Trouble would be the low point of Chevy Chase's career.
Yeah, I forgot about
Like
that.
Caddyshack 2, it's right up there.
I tried to block that out of my mind.
But I mean, 5 years ago, he does Christmas Vacation.
He did that in
Just
'89,
okay.
yeah.
He does have Christmas cred on his,
Yeah, that he
his
does.
resume. So
It's
other
a
people that
kid
were
show.
considered for the role of Scott: Robin Williams, Tom Hanks, John Ritter, which he was also considered for the role of Neil, Kurt
Interesting.
Russell, which later Kurt Russell did become Santa,
Yeah, he did.
Tom Selleck,
No.
John Travolta, who has also become Santa,
Santa
but in a
in the
totally
cap-
disturbing way.
In the Capital One
Yes.
Saturday Night Fever
Yeah.
commercials. Yes.
Rowan Atkinson,
Oh
Mike
my God.
Myers, Michael Keaton, and Harrison Ford.
So
were
pretty much
considered for the
anyone
role.
with
Harrison-
Pulse
Harrison
was,
Ford?
Yeah, I don't
He-
see Harrison
what he-
Ford. I could see
He was
Michael
doing
Keaton.
Air Force One. Get off my plane.
I could see Michael Keaton. I mean,
Get
he
off
did,
my sled.
Sorry.
did Jack Frost, which
Right,
not a very good movie
right.
there, but
No, bad movie. But there's some of those that I could see.
Oh my goodness. That's the
Yeah.
who's in
Interesting.
Hollywood there.
yeah. And wait, there's,
There's more.
But this is for Neil. So they thought they could get Rick Moranis or Daniel Stern, John Hurd.
Not Daniel Stern. Rick Moranis I could see.
Rick
No, I
Moranis
can't see
is
them.
why Rick Moranis? He's like a weenie.
Well, isn't
She's
that
not
a
gonna
role?
date
Isn't
him.
that Liz?
Yeah, but he's a little bit more manly, a little
Oh,
bit more. I mean, I
John
don't know.
Hurd was one, which I
John
could see
Hurd.
John Hurd. Dudley
I
Moore
could
was,
see
I
John
think, too.
Hurd as Santa too.
I don't know if he's got the real comic chops. I mean, he's a good comic actor, but I don't know if he's that great.
I don't know.
Dudley Moore, but I felt like he would be too old at this particular time.
He'd also be
No,
laughing and
yeah.
drinking too much.
Yeah, no.
He's
Dudley
too happy
Moore.
and cheery.
Yeah.
Jeff Daniels, and don't
Okay.
forget, this is for Neil.
Yeah.
Ryan Stiles. Peter
Ryan, they were
Nichols.
really
Stiles?
looking at Ryan Stiles,
Yeah, well,
which kind of looks like Judge Reinhold.
Well, he would have been in the Drew Carey show
Yeah.
at that time, so he
Yeah.
would have been
Oh,
very
yeah.
popular. Yeah.
and he's kind of like a Judge Reinhorn.
he is very much so. Yeah.
Stanley Tucci.
No.
You'll like this one, Eric. Ted McGinley
Why
Yes,
not? Why
yes.
not? Ted McGinley,
Ted
and
McGinley.
Bradley Whitford.
Bradley
We're all
Whitford.
That would have been before he really hit it big.
That was
with
before West Wing.
West Wing, yeah. The interesting one for Scott, though, would have been Robin Williams. I think
Yeah, I
this
can see
could
it.
have been a much better movie because he would have ad-libbed a lot of stuff.
Yeah, it would have been more of a
It would have been funnier.
like a Mrs. Doubtfire kind of comedy
Kind of.
style. Yeah.
Actually, he would look like Mrs. Doubtfire.
Maybe a little bit. Yes. Yeah.
I mean, if you're going to choose between Robin Williams and barely ever you're going to beat Robin Williams when it comes to anything.
So
Right.
why didn't Robin Williams do it?
I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
if it was too much money. I mean, because '94, Robin Williams is like peak
Yeah,
Williams. He's probably demanding a high salary. So that's
probably. 22, and they only had a $22 million budget.
some of the people that they consider for Laura Miller. I actually have two. I have people who actually auditioned and people who were considered. So the people that auditioned were Susan Day, Nicole
Okay.
Kidman.
No way.
I'm not sure about this actor, Marie Winningham.
Mayor
Or Mary-
Winningham.
Muriel Winningham. Oh,
No,
wow.
Mayor Winningham.
Yeah, wow.
Andy McDowell
Okay, I can
And-
see that.
and Renee Zellweger. They all auditioned for that role.
She would have been too young.
I would agree. She would have been too
Because
young. That's probably why.
this is around the time of Empire Records.
Wasn't Andy McDowell, this is coming off Groundhog Day?
Probably.
Groundhog Day?
Probably, I was coming off 4 Weddings and a Funeral.
Oh,
Okay,
yeah.
yeah. That I could see
Yeah,
that.
Yeah.
What was Susan Day and so Nicole Kidman.
Susan Day would be too old too. At this
Nicole
particular
Kidman,
time.
that's an interesting one. How close is this to Days of Thunder?
This is a
Days
little
of
bit
Thunder
after.
is 92?
Or so
Yeah,
what-
somewhere around there.
Are,
Yeah.
so are we talking Far and Away?
Far and Away, I think, is 93, 94. She might have been doing Far and Away.
Yeah.
She might have been too attractive to be in this movie,
Yes,
to be honest.
very much so.
Probably would have took a little bit away from Tim Allen. They'd be like, no, bring back Nicole Kidman, please.
Yeah.
There's some weird ones that they were considering here. So here's a
Susan
list
Day
of
is kind of weird. She was doing
No. L.A. Law, like
L.A.
5
Law.
years
That's
ago.
about it.
Yeah.
Partridge
Yeah.
Family, yeah.
But she was way past.
How come what's her face from Tombstone wasn't considered?
I don't know. I wasn't
Yeah,
there. at
Ken,
the
why
time.
didn't you consider her?
She's attractive, but she's not like Nicole Kidman attractive.
Why didn't they get Drew Barrymore? Okay, we just have so many.
They should have got.
Possibilities.
They should have got what's her name? Is it Susan? Is Heaton the one from?
Why didn't they get Uma Thurman? Because basically
Uma
she
Thurman.
had Uma
Stop.
Thurman's look from Pulp Fiction throughout the whole damn movie.
No, the one from Tool Time. His wife from Tool Time.
Patricia Heaton.
Patricia Heaton. Yeah,
Yeah.
that
she
would have
was
been
actually
ironically
considered.
funny.
She was considered.
That doesn't surprise me because Tim Allen, he had a movie here recently. He tried to have her included.
Some other people that they considered but didn't audition was Liza Minnelli.
Gee,
Dear
really
God in heaven.
turned into a show tunes.
Yes.
Liza.
Patricia Clarkson, Bonnie Hunt, which that makes sense. Bonnie
Hunt.
is
I
Bonnie
can see
Hunt.
that. The lady I'm thinking of is Dana Delaney.
Mary McDonnell, Jennifer Grey,
Okay.
Pamela Reed, Sally Field, Goldie Hawn.
Sally-
Yeah, actually,
Wow, they went the whole.
Big name
They
gambit
went
there.
the whole gam. Yeah, they ran
Barbra
the whole
Streisand.
age gamut too.
Yeah. Patricia
Liza
Heaton
Minnelli.
and Kate Burton. Sometimes I think, though, when I think of these names, they may have considered these actresses with another different actor. Because Tim Allen at this particular
True.
time is in his late 30s. So if you're going to get someone like Liza Minnelli, then it's got to be Dudley Moore. That's going to be the
Is going to play
main guy in
Santa.
it.
Yeah. Dudley
Or
Moore's the midget
somebody
Santa.
that's much older.
That's one of the.
As far as Bernard, they thought about Joseph Gordon-Levitt.
Dudley Moore.
Interesting.
He's already been an elf.
Was okay. So
Santa,
would,
there was the Santa movie where he was an elf. Yeah.
Yes.
would Joseph Gordon-Levitt? How close are we to 30 Rock from the Sun?
Right there.
Right there, probably. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Which would make sense because you want
Yeah.
somebody of a young actor. Elijah Wood.
Okay.
This would have been
Pre-Hobbit.
interesting because I would think they would consider this person based on the success of the Home Alone movies. Macaulay Culkin was considered. That would have been a nice little twist.
A little too young though.
Well, let's see. At that particular time, he probably would have been 14, 15 years old.
Shit. How old was he when he did Home Alone?
I think he
14.
was.
100. He was 93.
Dear God in heaven.
He was
man.
21.
Yeah, he was
Yeah.
35.
He was Gary Coleman's age.
He's Gary Coleman, right? Hey, Gary
Jesus.
Coleman. Hey.
Gary Coleman could have been.
Gary
could've
Coleman,
played-
yeah.
He could have played he could have played an elf.
So
Let's
yeah.
talk
so,
about Krampus.
Yeah.
of course, they went with Tim Allen, and
Of course they
Tim
did.
Allen was almost not considered because Disney does not
Yes.
hire actors who have a criminal record.
Right.
But they made
Here
an
we
exception
go.
here.
Wait,
They made an
wait.
exception.
Is that
No,
is that
I'm not
still
even-
today?
No.
No.
Okay.
They've loosened that.
They've loosened
policy.
it. Okay.
Yes. I remember that distinctly and that was a huge thing for Disney.
Yeah.
A lot
I
of
remember
lot
that.
of snow on the set of the Santa Claus.
Well,
I
I don't know,
see.
maybe, yeah.
Well, it was Tim Allen's first starring role. You know, there was a lot of things. Christmas movies really weren't very popular. So they wanted to keep the budget low, but have somebody of notoriety.
TV
Everyone
stardom.
knew who Tim Allen was.
And everybody knew who Tim
Yeah.
Allen was. So they were able to go a little bit on the cheap on here with Tim Allen.
This was
because
his
it was
first
his-
acting role in a movie?
His first leading role.
Leading role.
As far as any problems on the set, so there was a couple.
Okay.
So originally in the movie, Tim Allen, when they're in the scene where he's talking to his ex-wife, she gives him an emergency contact, and it's her mother's, and he reads it out like 1-800-SPANK-ME. Well,
God, yes.
so that was actually in the original film as well as in VHS copies. But once they got to DVD, they took that out because there was I think it was an 8-year-old boy who actually
Who
called
the
that
number.
number.
Right.
Yep.
I do
But it
have
wasn't-
this on VHS.
Do you
We
really?
need to check it out and see if it's
I'm
on there.
going to now. Now that you
Yeah.
say that.
Yeah, you're
I watched
actually
it.
gonna-
I watched the Blu-ray of this one.
You-
I did,
you-
but now I'm going to whip out
You-
the old VHS and start dialing some numbers.
Actually,
yeah, so
actually,
19
let's be honest. You're gonna call 1-800-SPANK-ME, aren't you?
Regardless, I've got a lot of time on my hands.
It is a sex line, and
Still active?
it was active it was in 1997. That's how long it took for them to realize that they
Wow.
probably should have pulled it.
Jesus
So
criminy.
It's awesome. So
Eric Lloyd, who plays Charlie, had to wear fake teeth in the movie because he accidentally knocked out his front teeth before filming began.
someone
So
beat
he
the hell
was-
out of him.
So was he actually all he wanted for his Christmas movie
Was
his
his
two
two
front
front
teeth?
Yeah. So
How did he lose his teeth,
Fine.
Ken? Did someone
Funny.
beat the hell out of him?
Yeah, Tim Allen beat him up.
I would have beat
Well,
him up. Kid
that's
annoyed
why
me.
Tim Allen, of course, had spent 4 to 5 hours in makeup and prosthetics
Oh, I thought you were gonna say 4 to 5 hours in prison.
each day for
4
the
to 5
Santa.
years.
So that doesn't include the 2 hours it took to take it all off. So
Whoa. Take it all
I
off.
know.
Straight out
I
of
know.
context.
he really is thinking about that 1-800 number now. So that's
Yes,
fine.
I am. Hold on, I'm gonna call.
So Alan did experience some heat rashes, scars, scratches, and infections because of all the makeup in the suit. And, there was even a time limit of I think it was 6 hours of how long he can actually stay in costume. That's it for Ken's tidbits.
Now,
So Eric, why don't you go ahead and get us to the setup?
37-year-old Scott Calvin is a marketing director for a toy company in Lakeside, Illinois, who prepares to spend Christmas Eve with his 8-year-old son, Charlie. Scott wants Charlie to maintain his belief in Santa Claus, despite not believing himself. Scott's ex-wife, Laura, and her psychiatrist husband, Dr. Neil Miller, stop believing in Santa at a young age and feel it is time for Charlie to do the same. Following an evening at Denny's after Scott accidentally burned the dinner at home, Scott and Charlie are awakened that night by a noise on the roof. While investigating, Scott startles Santa Claus, who falls off the roof and dies. Pretty tragic right there.
What a way to start off a
What a
Christmas
way.
movie.
Let's kill Santa right
Let's
off the
kill
bat.
Santa.
That's right. And doesn't he dissolve into the snow too?
Something like that.
Yeah. Santa's body vanishes. That's right. Leaving behind a red suit and business card stating that if anything were to happen to him, someone should put on the suit.
Call
and the
1-800.
reindeer call 1-800.
Only 1-800-SPANK-ME.
That's it. Okay. I'm definitely pulling out the VHS later. That's a given. Scott and Charlie find Santa's sleigh and reindeer on the roof. At Charlie's request, Scott reluctantly dons the suit and spends the rest of the night delivering gifts before the reindeer take him to the North Pole. So, we all know the opening scene in this one. Charlie, work obsessed with his career. Would you guys agree?
I mean, I guess. I think that's what we're supposed to believe. But I mean, all they really do is just kind of establish that he's like the leading salesperson. He and that other lady who we never see again.
Yeah.
Oh, we see her. We see her again. She's in
Was she
in
in the
office.
boardroom? Is she
Yeah,
in the
she's in the
boardroom?
boardroom. But here's the
Alright.
thing: I do think that they set it up for him to look that way because he's lying about why he's not there to pick up Charlie.
Well, completely
yeah,
lying.
and why?
Yeah.
And why is he even
Traffic
lying? All he
and-
has to do is say that I had my office Christmas party and it ran late.
Well, that's
Probably letting down Charlie.
yeah, and probably something he
Okay.
doesn't have to go to. He probably doesn't have to, be there. I do think it's interesting where they're kind of like making fun of the one guy who was playing Santa that has his secretary on his lap.
Yeah.
Does this really start off to being something like a family Christmas movie with these type of allegations?
Not particularly.
It's like none of our families are here. It's a Christmas party that we don't invite any of our family to.
Well, it's Office Christmas party.
They didn't invite people to the Christmas party in the greatest Christmas movie of all time. Nobody was invited. Family was invited to the Nakatomi Plaza.
Oh yes, it was John McClane, her soon-to-be ex-husband.
He's the only one.
I don't know if he's the only one.
I think he's the only one.
I think he is. He has to be there because he saves Christmas.
Next Christmas, let's do Die Hard.
Because it's the greatest Christmas movie.
He's making excuses. Like he's driving on the road and he's pretending that other people are yelling at him and stuff like that.
Yeah.
You know, if it's now, 2024, she could just look up on the phone to see what the traffic is like on the phone and be like, call him up, be like, no, I see everything is just fine with that.
And when in Chicagoland are the interstates ever that clear?
Well, it is Christmas Eve. We don't know where he's at, I think we said that this is Lakeside, Illinois. I don't know where that's.
It's probably Lake County because they mentioned 94. It's a pretty affluent area. I'll bet you it's like Evanston or Skokie or something off 94.
He lives right by Kevin McAllister.
Exactly, in Sherman.
Actually, they make fun of that. There's a police map later on in the film when they're trying to find, Charlie and Santa and stuff like that. And one of the houses is listed as they're gone on vacation. So it's a nod to the Home Alone house.
Oh, that's right.
Well, that was real subtle. That was very subtle.
But yeah,
spoiler alert.
She even says to him that he has no time for Charlie, which means that he's worked.
And you can kind of see that him and Charlie really don't get along.
Begs his mom not to come early. Can you? Right. We're talking sunrise, Mom.
Yeah. Do I have to spend it with Dad? So yeah, there's definitely a lot of animosity and resentment there between Charlie and Calvin.
And Scott's not ready to even have him. He doesn't even have any of the dinner cooked yet.
No.
He's sitting there going, 4 hours? He's talking about cooking a turkey or something, right?
Sure.
What time are they going to eat? Midnight?
I know, that's the thing. What time is he being dropped off? What time was this party, right?
Dude, he's going to Denny's regardless.
Time is very, very sketchy here to start off with.
Throughout the whole movie, the time frames are kind of weird, but it is what it is.
Play fast and loose with it.
The Santa Claus thing here, which we've, believing in Santa, I think, is that really up to Scott at this particular time if he's not a full-time dad? I mean, it sounds like he gets them maybe on weekends or on holidays or whatever. It doesn't sound like he's really involved in this kid's life. So is his wife and Neil right about telling him that there is no Santa Claus? Or that Santa Claus is a state of mind?
Well, how old is Scott at this point? What is his age supposed to be?
Well, Scott's 38. So
No, not Scott, the kid. I'm sorry, Charlie.
Charlie in the
Charlie's
chocolate
8.
factory.
He's 8.
So that puts him around third grade.
Second, third grade, somewhere around there.
I'm sure.
Well, they were still doing Bring My Father to School Day.
What point do you not believe in Santa Claus?
I can tell you when I stopped believing in Santa Claus.
Yesterday?
Well, last year when he didn't bring me a
Never.
present.
I still believe in Santa Claus.
Well, it was 7 years old, and Santa had just came down and did his thing and talked about Jesus Christ and things of that nature.
Started swearing at you, threw an RC can at you.
Got stuck in the chimney, all that good stuff, and then about 5 minutes later, I opened the door to the garage, and there's my dad on getting out of his Santa suit. So that's when I stopped believing in Santa.
Your father actually wore a Santa suit?
I want to see Wally dressed up like
My
Santa.
dad had played Santa up until about 2 years ago.
Really?
Yes. He was a man that would...
wander around the streets or actually had a...
Kind of like Dan Aykroyd in Trading Places, right? So...
Big ham under his...
Well, he was a school bus driver, so every last day before Christmas break, he would dress up as Santa, and he would, drive the bus as Santa Claus, and then
give
he
the
would
kids
actually
a cigarette.
go. Don't tell anyone. But as a kid, he did it for a long time with us. And then when we had kids, he started doing it again with them. But at that time, Santa Claus became more of a swearing type of Santa.
Your
Like I
father?
You don't
Yeah.
say.
said, my father would be like, Jesus Christ. And then we had to explain to the kids that Santa knows Jesus. He's a piece of work as Santa. That's for sure.
So
My
had
goodness.
Santa had a little bit of nip of holiday cheer.
I like to think of him as the rough Santa, where he goes
Okay.
and he
Jeez.
gets drunk at that one
Yeah.
Christmas party, and Santa was mean to me. That might be my dad.
It's not bad
Doing that.
Santa, is it?
You
No,
know
it's not
how I
bad
like
Santa,
my
no.
Santa? Dressed up in one of those tuxedo shirts because it says, I'm dressed up, but I'm still
ready to
casual.
party. Do you remember when you guys didn't
He's
believe?
at Talladega Nights.
Yes,
Yes.
But he's changing Jesus to Santa.
Yes. Yes.
obviously. For me, it was probably 3rd or 4th grade. It was okay. So for me, it was around the time my sister was starting to walk and talk. So it would have been around 3rd or 4th grade because my mom and dad wanted my help putting up the tree and stuff like that. And I had already started to know, but we always maintained it for my sister. My sister,
Still believes to this day.
no, she believed for quite a while. I want to say my sister was into the 5th or 6th grade.
And Eric's been one of Santa's little helpers for a very long time now. So
I supplement
he's
my
always-
income with flirty
Yeah.
Santa. Yeah.
Yeah.
So-
Flirty Santa.
Flirty
Of
Santa.
course.
I don't, it's an interesting question. I've been thinking about it. I don't know when I stopped believing in Santa. And no, it wasn't last week.
And paychecks stop coming
When
from
paychecks
Santa.
stopped
It
coming,
stopped
right?
coming, yeah.
Yes. I that's a great, I would have to say probably when I was, 7, maybe 6, 7. I honestly don't know. That
Was there an event that triggered
No.
it or not? No.
I can't honestly. Maybe I'm drawing a blank, but I can't even think of an event, something that can tell you. My parents didn't dress up as Santa Claus or
My-
elves or Miss Claus or anything.
I have a picture of my grandfather dressing up, but I don't remember it because he passed away when I was 2.
yeah, that's
I remember my mom dressing up as Mrs. Claus
Oh, I thought you were going to say Santa Claus.
for our church, which is really weird because churches usually don't do. I'm talking like Protestant churches usually don't mix Santa with.
But your mom
Christmas.
and dad were Catholic, right?
They were Catholic, but when I was a kid, they sent me to a Baptist school, so
Right.
they went to the Baptist
Okay.
church as
Okay.
well while we were going there.
Gotcha. Interesting.
Yeah, but, this time of the season is the time I do miss my parents' house the most.
yeah.
But it's because of so many things that my mom and dad did to make the Christmas season work. I've never been able to recapture that magic. Even with our own kids, or now that they're older, it's like I realize how much my parents made Christmas.
It started to lose its luster in the late 90s because our family started to dwindle and great aunts and uncles started to pass away. But then celebrating with Michelle's family kind of reinvigorated Christmas.
I was really blessed. My parents allowed me to have my best friends at the time, which, you guys weren't around at that moment, but to come to these Christmas Eve, Thanksgiving feasts. So it was just like, if I didn't want to deal with my family, I just dealt with them.
There you
Yeah,
So
go.
that was kind of,
Right.
that was kind of cool.
I was always offered once we became friends, and unfortunately I was never able to partake because Michelle's dad did Christmas Eve.
Well, let's see. Let's bring it back in here. So he's making the turkey, right? And I guess he somehow gets it on fire.
I thought
Not
you
sure
were
how he
saying-
did that.
The flames get too hot. And then he goes a little overboard
It's so over exaggerated.
Yeah, it is, but you kind of
It's a home. Here's
Home
what
Alone
it is.
moment. Yeah.
It's a home improvement gag. Yeah, of course he does, because that's not annoying.
Well, he's talking about the fire extinguisher like
Yes.
Yeah,
he's
it's
full time, right?
Right.
yeah. I mean,
Tool time.
it's over the top. It's not funny, in my opinion, but
No.
I'm sure some people find it amusing, and if you
It's
do,
funnier
that's
later though
fine.
when his son when he's about saying, I'll preheat the oven to make the cookies for Santa. He goes,
Right.
Don't forget about the fire extinguisher. I
Right.
think that's
You're supposed to
funny.
put the cookies out before you before you go to sleep. That's another weird.
Well, he
Weird.
wasn't planning on putting any cookies out, so his son was
No.
making the request just in case, he said. So
But we really didn't resolve this issue about them deciding, like, his ex-wife and her, is it her new husband or?
Yeah, it's the new husband.
Okay. So that should have been a thing that Scott was involved in. That should be a family decision, because if the kid doesn't come to you and say that he knows or she knows, and you're going to tell him or her, that's a family decision at that point.
Yeah.
And Scott should have been included. His indignation there, I think that is one of the most genuine parts of this first section of the movie. He has every right to be upset about it. Now, is he like I don't know, you said like a checked out parent? It's hard to tell because it's not written very well, but what is written well is his indignation over his Charlie's stepdad telling him that there's no Santa, which is and if you go back to the 90s, is a very psychotherapist type of thing, thinking, you shouldn't lie to your children, blah, 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 blah.
I mean,
It's stupid, in my opinion.
I don't know if it's stupid, but I'll say this, because Neil, first of all, Charlie says that Neil listens to him. So that Neil is a good cook, and Neil is this, and Neil's that. So Neil is definitely more of a dad to him right now than he is. Or is
Charlie just trying to stroke his dad off?
No, I don't think he's trying to stroke his dad off.
That's a different movie, Ted.
Yeah, trying to make him mad.
That's one
because he knows. Yeah, because he knows his dad doesn't like Neil.
Yeah, but at the same time, is he lying though? Because we see that he doesn't even want to be there. He doesn't want to be at the house at all. He wants her to pick her up as soon as possible. I think he's kind of forfeited a little bit of his rights as a dad. Not totally.
He seems a little checked out, as far as that goes. But also,
he still cares. I mean, we could tell that he definitely still cares. What made this better if Neil was a complete asshole? I wish Neil was like meaner, just not reasonable at all. He's kind of like, he's just a know-it-all. I think of the movie Analyze This, and I think of Billy Crystal's dad.
Yes.
In the movie where, he was trying to live up to his dad's reputation. Well, maybe Neil could have been like Citrus to the Stars or something like that, or whatever, somebody with a high ego. Then that would make more sense, at least the battle between Neil telling him and his father telling him. Then you could have a little bit more conflict in there. And you could still have Neil at the end of the movie embrace Santa Claus, right? I just wish Neil was just a little bit more of a prick.
I was thinking that you were going to say that Scott needed to be more of a jerk, because I think that Tim Allen kind of plays this. I don't know. He's kind of, in my opinion, it's kind of wishy-washy as to is Scott a jerk or is he a good guy?
That's what I like about him. I think the fact that he's a mixture of that, and you're not sure, because you could tell he loves his son. I don't think he knows how to relate to his son at this particular time. With the divorce, with him working, he doesn't know his son. Doesn't know his son well. And him becoming Santa Claus is what changes all that.
It doesn't say in the movie how long they were divorced for, does it?
No. Originally, the film was going to be that Scott and his ex-wife were going to get back together. That was the original premise. So she would have become Mrs. Claus.
You can kind of get that feeling a little bit in the middle of this movie. I don't know if they eradicated that whole feeling out of the movie at that point.
Because she doesn't hate him. Throughout the whole movie, she kind of feels bad for things that she feels about him.
Yeah, that's why I was asking, is Judge Reinhold her husband now?
They never really say if he's the husband or the boyfriend or fiance. I mean, we're just going to assume, because there's 2 other movies and they're still together, so that they're married.
I thought somewhere in there it said they were married.
Maybe,
but that would have been very awkward.
We're married,
If she would have gotten back together with Scott,
a little bit,
would she have become Mrs. Claus then?
That's why I said, yeah.
That's
Well, Mrs. Claus, if you watch the second movie, you don't have to do anything to become Mrs. Claus except get married to Mr. Claus. The only reason why I think that they got married is because he brought
It's a
Neil
Disney movie.
to the school.
Yeah.
And,
and
as
it's
parent.
a
As a parent, yeah. But so he reads him the bedtime story, and of course he's just trying to get through that.
Yeah, literally.
which is bullshit because that story's not that long. See, that's where he was kind of a jerk. And that's where I was like, you're kind of being a dick now. I don't like how he plays both sides of that fence.
I don't mind it too much because I think it's real. I think it's more of a real person who is obsessed a little bit more with his own life, but still wants to care about people still inside of it. So I think he does a decent balancing act. He's definitely not going to be a Tom Hanks who was considered for this role. He wouldn't be that great of an actor. He's not. But I think he pulls it off decently. But it does a good job of setting up what's going to happen here because he reads the story, then Charlie asks about Clatter. So it's just setting it up for that you have the loudest Santa show up on your roof. What's that?
I don't like that joke. The Clatter Ladder Company.
Yeah,
it's a little weak. I agree with you on that.
It's weak sauce.
What I would thought would be interesting in this film. So at the beginning of the movie, you had Santa Claus coming into the office party, right? And
right.
Wouldn't it have been cool if that would have been the real Santa and that he was just scouting Scott as his replacement?
Oh, because why was he on his roof, right?
Why was making all that noise?
So Santa was messing around with the secretary?
Well, that's what I wish would have happened. Not that he would have messed around with the secretary, but they would have had the original Santa show up at the party. I think this is predestined for Scott to become Santa Claus because nobody treats this as a bad thing when Santa dies here and Scott takes on the mantle. Nobody even mentions or even sheds a tear for the old Santa Claus. So, but we'll get to that in a little bit here.
Yeah, he literally just falls off the roof, breaks his neck, and it's like, that's it. Here's my card, replace me.
How long has he been doing this job as Santa? I mean, is something like that will easily startle him and fall off the roof?
Right. I mean, is this a routine thing where, we replace Santas every couple of years because they fall off the roof like an idiot?
For insurance reasons, right?
Right. They never get attached to their Santa because, he never sticks around long enough. It's a dangerous job. Yeah, because it's weird that he falls off the roof. I mean, we've seen in other movies people fall off of, higher buildings and they don't die. Because he's falling into the snow too. That should have softer landing. I just think he was ready to give up the suit. So
he was ready to give up and die?
I think
Jesus.
We don't know.
That's a little dark.
He might have been doing Santa for 100 years. We don't know. He might have been ready to retire. Maybe they knew he was ready to retire, and that's why nobody really cares about.
So to retire, you have to die?
Yeah.
That's messed up, Now we're talking horror movie.
If you are living an extra 100 years as Santa Claus,
Santa's just up on the roof, just looking down, contemplating, looking at the reindeer.
Santa's contemplating suicide.
Right, having a little sip of something before.
It's like Santa's like, I'm done. I am so done.
They could have went with that R rating and just have Santa's like look at the guards and go, fuck it.
Well, Santa was doing a lot of making noise, making sure everybody heard him for sure, didn't he? When
he arose such a clatter.
Well, he is a large gentleman.
And then he took a very long time to get down that chimney. So he gave Scott plenty of time to get downstairs. And, Scott doesn't put on, as far as I know, Scott doesn't put on any shoes. And
No, he doesn't. He walks out in the snow barefoot.
Yeah, doesn't bother him whatsoever.
What? He's in his boxers.
No, but I'm talking about you're standing in snow.
No, he's in bare feet.
Well, yeah, he's standing in snow with bare feet. That's a bad idea.
And we also find out that he likes to sleep naked, butt naked. So
that's weird.
Usually I don't wear pajamas. Anyway, and of course Charlie doesn't listen. He tells Charlie to stay back. And
most little snotty kids don't listen. That's usually I should stay back.
I love it when he comes out. He's like, you got him. You killed them. I did not.
You killed Santa.
Yeah, it should have been a bigger deal that Santa died.
A little bit.
The reindeer didn't even care.
They didn't.
Yeah.
I mean,
that's why I'm saying it was a suicide. It would have been interesting later on because they've done the Santa Claus's TV series on Disney Plus, which is it's
Wow.
very so. They
You
should
don't
have,
say.
when they ended that series, they should have done a
should've
reversal
killed-
where that he does fall off the roof and somebody else takes his place. So
Wow.
full circle. So
Circle of Santa life.
There's nothing
Yeah.
like a dead Tim Allen.
Oh, you wanted
It's
to kill
fun, though.
Tim Allen off at the end of this for the sequel?
Yeah.
he wanted to kill him off within the first 30 minutes
Kill
of the film.
Tim Allen on the
Me?
roof,
No,
looking down at the gutters.
Tim Allen's fine. He's home improvement guy.
He's like, whoa, deja vu.
I mean, let's be honest. Okay, let's take Scott here. Scott essentially is Tim Allen in Home Improvement too, as
Sure.
well.
Well, it's basically every
I mean-
role he's ever done.
Yeah, he has no. Tim Allen
Range.
has no grandiose range here.
Yeah.
I mean,
And that's fine, because
Yeah.
some actors should just be what they are. And he doesn't pretend to be anything he's not, which I can appreciate that. Is if you do one thing well and you continue to do it, I'm all for it.
Why
I do
not?
find it fun throughout the rest of the movie, though, that Scott tries to find out ways for him not to fall off a roof. Because that's all he cares about is not falling off
yeah,
a roof.
obviously this is a job hazard, and you and you die. It's like Donkey Kong. If you fall down the girder, you die.
And I like the animatronics with the deer. I think that it's decent for 94.
Animatronics.
Yeah. The deer
He
were
thought they were-
animatronics.
What?
They weren't real deer.
Same
They
deer,
weren't
they were
reindeer?
black sheep.
They were deer? Come on.
They do a good, decent job. In fact,
Reindeer.
I give a lot of credit to
The reindeer are some of the best actors in the movie.
the technical, the special effects in this movie is not bad for 94. And we'll get into the makeup and everything later, but I do think it's interesting that it seems like, though, when he takes on the suit and rides the sleigh around, that they're just maintaining in the Chicago area and then they have to leave. They don't go into like Russia or into the Amazon or anything like that. They
Because
don't
he
show
would have
any of that.
been shot down over Russia.
Well, Santa's been doing this for a long time.
Long time.
Yeah.
So what? All of a sudden,
Did they have
Santa's
NORAD
top-
Santa back in the
Yeah,
day in '94?
Santa's all of a sudden in Top Gun. He's dodging missiles.
I want to see the Santa from Scrooged. Lee Majors.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of like this. I mean, again, you see Charlie being very upset because Scott is always saying, "This is stupid. Why is everything I want to do be, everything I want to do stupid?"
Right?
It's a tad whiny, but okay.
It's a tad whiny, but at the same time, it does paint a picture of the distance between him and his son, and I think that's important to establish.
And a whiny youth.
So, Ken, you've said in the past in other movies with child actors
Mhm.
that you don't particularly like child actors. So you like Charlie, the kid that plays Charlie here?
I think he's okay. I think they could have gotten better actors, but let's put it this way: he's probably 8 or 9 years old at this time when he's playing this film.
He's probably 35.
Probably 30. He's probably Gary Coleman's age, but I think he does okay. He could show a little bit more excitement later on when he reveals to everybody else that he's Santa, and it's a little low key, even though he's telling everybody that is Father Santa Claus. But I think he's all right. I think where he's the best is maybe at the North Pole.
Yeah.
When they get to the North Pole, he seems very excited and very interested in the North Pole. Let's talk about like the different ways he has to get into to these houses. So
Yes.
you got the regular chimney,
Yeah.
but then you got the little what
He's
what is
a
it?
jerk
What do they
to
call
the
those?
little girl.
Is it still a chimney if they have like a little like exhaust pipe?
It's like an exhaust stack.
Yeah, it's like gonna.
Yeah.
yeah.
Stupid.
So he squeezes down there, and
Yeah.
then he sees the one girl who basically
He's a jerk to her.
he is a
Little
jerk
bit.
to her.
He is, yeah.
He's a kind
Well,
of
he
a
doesn't want to
dick.
do this. First of all, it's difficult. I mean, we see him trying to take that kayak out of that bag. He knocks down the Christmas tree. He hears the first house that he's at, he sets off something, and you hear a gun being cocked in the background. So he's afraid about getting shot.
Sure.
I think I would be stressed out, and she's giving him a hard time about the cookies and stuff like that.
Who knew that
Drink some
Santa
milk.
had so many, that the job entailed so many risk factors?
Yeah, right?
In the job. Well, he has the dog. He has the
Nice teeth.
the
Yeah,
Rottweiler.
nice teeth. Yes, Snots. Roll over and let him rub your belly.
Sometimes best is if he lays into you, just let him finish.
But by the time this is all done, though, I think he's proud of what he has accomplished.
When
he
they
looks
go to the
pretty.
North Pole.
Before, when they say take us home, he looks pretty impressed
bummed,
that he was able to impress that he did this.
I guess
It's a
in
hard
a
job.
way. I mean, he still has no desire to be Santa.
He still thinks it's a dream. This comes through the point where he says Eric's line, I need a CAT scan.
Yeah.
Because it's hard for him to fathom this. I mean, none of this would be real to us, right? If this happened to us,
Nope,
Hey,
not
Ken.
at all, man.
Hey, Ken, it's not real. Just
shame
saying.
on you.
Shame on
I
you.
know. I mean,
Shame on you.
I don't know. It's an interesting premise. My biggest complaint, I guess, would be with the writing. The writing is a little weak.
Little weak writing.
Well, that's another reason why a lot of Christmas movies don't do well, especially
Right.
Santa Claus movies. We're talking about Santa Claus, the movie with Dudley Moore. If you want to talk weak and bad writing, you need to watch that film.
Yeah, no, that's okay. I'll pass. Pass.
Hard pass, unfortunately, even with Dudley Moore, which Dudley Moore is hilarious, but in that movie, no.
They can't all be gems, right?
I like the pacing of it. They don't want to spend too much time with the first night of delivering toys. They have to move it along because there's still another hour to this movie. So I think they do an all right job. I don't think the writing has to be anything grand as long as the message is passed on to its viewers, which I think, it's setting it up all right. I think they're doing a decent job. Go to the build and see what happens next.
Turns out that by putting on the suit, Scott is subject to a legal technicality known as the Santa Claus and is accepted.
It's the title of the movie, Eric.
Oh, wow! I know, right? And has accepted all the late Santa's duties and responsibilities. The head elf, Bernard, gives Scott 11 months to get his affairs in order before reporting back to the North Pole on Thanksgiving. Overwhelmed, Scott changes into pajamas provided to him and falls asleep. Next morning, Scott awakes in his own bed and believes the previous events were a dream, but realizes he's still wearing the pajamas given to him. Charlie is proud that his father is the new Santa Claus, and this arouses concern in Laura and Neil and the school staff. Scott, now wanting to destroy Charlie's newfound enthusiasm, asks him to keep their North Pole trip a secret. Over the next year, Scott undergoes a drastic change. He gains a large amount of weight and develops an increased fondness for sweets, particularly milk and cookies. He also develops a white beard that instantly regrows after shaving, and his hair turns white in spite of attempts to dye it. During a meeting with his company, Scott is angered at a proposal to advertise a toy military tank by showing Santa riding it. Scott also begins to recount naughty and nice children by name when he sees them. After Laura and Neil...
Veronica, very nice.
Very nice. After Laura and Neil witness children wanting to sit on Scott's lap at Charlie's soccer game, they convince a judge that he's a danger to Charlie's welfare and have his visitation rights suspended. All right. What do you guys think of the elves? Cute little guys, aren't they?
They are.
I guess. Except for Bernard, he's like a little teamster.
Yeah, he's
Are we on
the.
a coffee break? I don't drink coffee.
Yeah, we do.
He's
Get the hell back to work.
Yeah, he's the taskmaster a little
Talk
bit
to my
there,
union.
but
None of them want to tell him how he became Santa. I mean, they're kind of even Bernard's running away from him. He's like, hi, Santa, bye, Santa type of deal. Nobody wants to help him out here.
well, Santa doesn't pay the elves, so I mean, there's that. There's
Well,
an indifference.
They still report to Santa. Santa's still their boss.
Is he though?
Santa's considered the head elf.
Yeah, if they're, I understand what Santa is. Thanks.
Head elf.
And he actually asked them, who's the boss here? And they're like,
You are.
Yeah, exactly. So if there is a complaint here with the elves, it's that there isn't shock that Santa died. It makes you wonder, is this, like we said before, is this routine? That these elves, like Santa just doesn't come back from delivering toys on
Pretty
Christmas?
much. He's expendable.
Exactly,
Disposable
right?
Santa, right?
Or was he horrible to these elves? I mean, did he
Total slave
do
driver.
something bad to the elves?
Is he kind of like the Santa from the Weird Al Yankovic song, "The Night Santa Went Crazy"? I don't know. I mean, it's kind of nuts. It is kind of jarring that nobody like it's like
No one's upset.
What happened to the other dude? I mean, who the hell are you, and how did you get here, and why did you bring a little kid?
Yeah, right.
But I like the elves overall. I think they're funny. There should have been more elves.
I'm seeing somebody in rapping.
Yeah, that's funny. I like that.
Yeah, I don't know. I always have a problem with these movies with elves who are played by your children.
But these weren't children, were they?
Yeah, they were all children.
Yeah, okay.
The only person that I don't know who was a child was Bernard, and I don't know how old he was. But the rest of them were actually kid age. They weren't.
Okay.
They weren't adults. They weren't little people. They like to be called little people, as the teacher said.
Yes, little people.
That's a PC joke before PC was PC.
Yeah, right.
I always like it when people show us their version of what the North Pole looks like. And I like the set design here, right? Yeah. I do like it a lot.
I even dig that the poll when it comes up, and even though it's kind of weird that you have to type in a code and all that, but I think the poll is really kind of cool. It has the little it's like a little snow globe on top and everything.
Yeah,
it's pretty neat. The North Pole sets are really cool. I like them. Yeah.
Just sending out a poor little elf to freeze to death to type in the code is kind of weird, though.
Somebody has to be sacrificed.
That's true.
I mean, look what happened to the Tauntauns on Hoth. I mean, come on.
Maybe the person that lets him in is the one that tells him some stuff before he lets him in. I just feel like there's just so much dismissal of the Santa.
That Santa's dead?
Yeah. Not just, that Santa's dead, but they're just not letting... I mean, Bernard finally tells them how he became Santa. Yeah. It's almost kind of saying like Santa should know. Like Scott should know.
And it's kind of like they're tricking him into doing it, too. Put the coat on, yeah.
He never put the hat on. I mean, doesn't the thing say put the coat and the hat on and the reindeer will know what to do?
I don't
think he ever puts the hat on.
Yeah, that's right. We never really do see him with the hat on.
He left it in the sleigh.
Yeah, it's a little bizarre. I actually like the whole setup of the whole elves, like the workshop and the whole North Pole. I think like the whole workshop thing and Santa's, I guess, house, I guess in a way, or is it his apartment or whatever?
Has those puppets there that when he gets changed,
that's a little weird. The Punch and Judy
is a little weird.
Yeah, Punch and Judy that's a little odd, but yeah, I don't get the point of that. But okay, that kind of leads. Does that kind of lead you to who that previous Santa was, and that's why nobody really gives a shit anymore? Because the whole Punch and Judy thing is like. The guy beats up the woman doll all the time. That's like the whole Punch and Judy thing. Maybe Ken's right. Maybe this previous Santa was
maybe he was into puppets.
He was a drunk jerk.
Could have been. You never know, right?
Beat people up.
Maybe that's why he fell off the roof in the first place, because he was drunk.
Maybe he had a little bit of nip of Christmas cheer.
Drinking and slaying.
Yeah, don't drink and slay it. I mean,
don't drink and sled. Yeah, right.
That's a bad combo. Where it starts to get a little odd for me is they give him the pajamas.
I guess these are the trial pajamas because they fit him really nice. I mean,
yeah, exactly right.
I mean, do they expand later on when you get Santa size?
So is it kind of like is it one of those weird things like because the Ewoks had a dress that fit Princess Leia perfectly, so the elves just have backup pajamas for when Santa dies and new Santa comes, and these are new Santa pajamas?
I think we're overthinking this a little bit, but that's okay.
Probably.
Yeah. And did they drug him with the cocoa? Because he goes back to sleep.
He did like that cocoa, didn't he?
He did like the cocoa a lot.
And it's her own little secret recipe, right?
Next thing he knows, though, he's sleeping in his bed again.
I'm sure they drugged him.
They drugged him and sent him back home.
I'm sure they did. Yes.
In the pajamas.
Yes.
First of all, if you and Charlie both had the same dream, you would have to say to yourself that it's probably not a dream.
Well, especially the pajamas. Yes. And I mean.
And Charlie's excitement is so much different. Like when he's in the North Pole, he's really, really excited. And of course, he's been up all night, so he, falls asleep first. But when they're back home and stuff, It's like, yeah, Dad and I went to the North Pole. Like it was like hey,
nothing. Yeah, me and Dad went to Detroit.
We went to we went to Denny's, and
Yeah.
then we stopped by the North Pole,
Right.
and
Yeah.
and I got the snow globe.
I actually like the snow globe thing. I think that's pretty cool. Because the whole thing with Christmas movies is there's supposed to be something with magic. I think that they didn't. I mean, it's funny that Ken says that they drugged him, but
That's magic. They did drug him. No, they
That's fine.
did.
isn't the snow globe like a transporter type of thing where you look into the snow globe? Because they say that Charlie can see his dad at any time, and he uses the snow globe to call him back.
Right.
So that's how they get back to the house in Illinois.
It was
right?
a pager.
Yes. It was a transponder out of Star Trek.
There's a lot of montages here. It's weird. He shaves and then it immediately grows back even bigger and thicker. His beard does, and it's like okay, that's a little corny.
Yeah.
I actually thought it was kind of funny that he gets so pissed off that Santa's driving a tank. To me, that seems like a real toy company type of a thing that they would pitch.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Well, he talks about it also as being a toy that breaks all the time and that people have to spend more money. He's starting to think differently. He's starting to think more like Santa. I think they do a great job with the makeup here at the beginning when he's gaining some weight. Because when he's in the doctor's office and he's like, does this look like a little weight to you? His body doesn't look like a prosthetic.
No,
it actually
doesn't.
it looks real.
Yeah, they do a pretty good job.
I was very impressed with the makeup job and how they've put a little weight on him. You know, maybe a little bit later, I think they don't do as good of a job. But these earlier scenes, I think they're doing a really good job of, you know, his weight. And he gets on there and he's like 197, and it just starts going up higher and higher and higher. And of course, then they're sitting there in the boardroom and they're having lunch, and he basically orders the whole freaking menu, especially the sweets and stuff.
With
extras.
extras.
He orders the whole dessert menu. He orders a salad though to start with.
No dressing.
With no dressing.
No dressing, yeah.
But then he orders the whole dessert menu.
He's starting to look like the Pillsbury Doughboy.
Peter Boyle's awesome.
Yeah.
I like Peter Boyle. I think he's funny.
How can
There
you
should have
not
been
like
more
Peter Boyle?
in this.
It would have been more interesting to see him get fired. Basically, his job just kind of dissolves. We don't really see.
Yeah, once they leave the boardroom, his job's pretty much is an afterthought. It's just kind of gone.
Yeah.
The other thing, too, they tell him that he has to get his affairs in order in 11 months. It's like he's been diagnosed with cancer.
Yeah, it's a little
It's like-
extreme.
Right.
And what happens if you don't get them? You just
Right?
disappear?
Yeah.
I mean,
Right.
what are you going to do in those 11 months anyway? I mean, here's the thing: what are you going to sell the house? I mean, what is the stuff that you need to do
Here's
in 11 months?
This is a case where somebody, one of the two writers thought that was funny, and it could have been, but they never thought about how to finish the joke off. Because it's just kind of, like Ken said, the moment you ask one question, the joke falls apart.
Makes sense. Sure.
Well, the movie isn't for us to think too much on.
No.
But at the same time, they do make you try to think, because then
But
they
you
bring
want
in.
You want a little bit of logic.
Yeah, you want a little bit logic. There's some logic here and there. I mean, I think they do enough to get by. My problem is they also bring too much of a serious tone into the movie where, okay, now Charlie, believes in this and that. This Charlie has some mental illness. Charlie, is focused on him just. My dad is Santa Claus. He's 8 years old, I guess, and he doesn't realize that saying these things might cause a problem. And Scott tries
People
to do the best.
think he's crazy.
A little bit, yeah. And Scott does the best he can. He tells him on the side, hey, let's just keep the North Pole between me and you. And for the most part, they do. His ex-wife and Neil, seeing him at the soccer game, and these kids lining up.
Yeah.
It's not like he was like soliciting these kids to come and see him. They must have realized that the weight gain was abnormal. That it wasn't something that Scott could gain that much weight in that period of time. In fact, all he would have had to do was say, come here over to our house, let me shave, and then all of a sudden see what happens, right? And that would have proved to them that something else was going on, right? But that would ruin the movie.
it wouldn't have worked. He'd have shaved and it wouldn't have come back immediately.
Why would have?
Because they don't believe in Santa. So
It's not a question about believing in Santa.
Even though Scott can see the beard grow back, they would still see him.
Everybody sees the beard.
All right. Well, I have a theory about this, and because everything changes at the end of this movie. What I'm thinking here, what leads to this, is they see Scott as still as Scott.
No.
And not as Scott Santa.
No, they don't see Scott as Scott. No, because everybody sees the weight gain. They think he's altering his appearance to make Charlie like him. That's why they're doing this to him, because they think that he's purposely feeding into Charlie's obsession.
Yeah, I understand. Then that makes the end really kind of odd.
I don't know if it does, but I can understand Neil and his ex-wife, being concerned for Charlie. I mean, it's one thing to have an active imagination around Christmas. It's another thing when March, April, May come along and you're still playing with reindeer and talking about Santa, and that's your main focus. Because we know we're at least in like spring or summer because he's playing soccer. We're no longer in the winter months anymore. I feel like this is where Neil being more of a prick character would have worked better here. If he was a prick forcing the hand of his ex-wife to do this with the judge and stuff, that would have made it more feasible. But Neil seems to be a nice guy. He's just a psychiatrist, tells things as it is. But he seems generally like a nice guy. I just wish he was a little bit more of a prick here. And so there's more of a battle between him and Scott, and she's kind of like in the middle. Because they're reluctant to take Charlie away at the end of the day.
No,
like,
they
are
aren't.
we doing the right thing? They're reluctant on it.
No, they aren't.
Yes, she feels really bad about it. She
That's
even
a funny
says,
way of
are we
showing
doing
it.
the right thing? And Neil kind of keeps on at it and saying, yes, we have to do this type of deal.
You were right to start this all off, though, when you first said that this didn't need to be there.
Yeah, it probably doesn't, but
yeah,
you do
no, it
need
doesn't.
you need something there. What do you put in there in its place?
You already have the conflict between the parents and everything. You didn't need to have them try to and then to revoke his visitation. That's a little far. It's a little much.
It might have been a little much. You needed something in this place. You just can't. We already have enough of Scott denying himself as Santa. What are you going to do with the other 20 minutes that you need to fill in there? So
Scott's not harming him.
No, we're not saying
that's why
nobody said that he was harming.
That's why you go to revoke somebody's visitation.
But
he's
he
not
was
harming
also,
him.
Well, that's up to debate because of the fact that first, Charlie isn't into Santa anymore. He doesn't believe in Santa. Now, all of a sudden, not only does he believe in Santa, but he's believing Santa to the 10th power. And who seems to be feeding him into that information seems to be Scott, at least by how they're looking at things. And that's because Scott is changing. They see Scott's changes. Every time they see Scott, he looks more and more like Santa Claus. And Charlie's really into Santa Claus. I don't think it's the worst premise to put in the movie, but at the same time, it's like I said earlier, it is a little bit too serious. The only problem I have with this movie is it's supposed to be a family film, at least in my eyes. It's Disney, when Disney was focusing on family films. And I feel like it gets away from family-oriented stuff. And I think this is one of those times where I think it just gets a little too heavy-handed, too serious. Maybe some other character in here is trying to stop him from becoming Santa. Besides...
Right.
That happens later on in the third movie where you have Jack Frost that, wants to take over because he doubts himself as wanting to be Santa. So you need maybe something like that instead of, the ex-wife and what I don't understand here is the kidnapping.
That's weird too.
Okay, Eric, why don't we try to stick this landing?
All right, let's stick the landing. Will this movie make it? Let's find out. A devastated Scott goes to Laura and Neil's house to see Charlie one last time. Charlie, desperate to help Scott realize how important he is to the children of the world, shows him a magical snow globe, a gift from Bernard, convincing Scott that he really is Santa. When Laura and Neil allow Scott a minute to talk to Charlie alone, Bernard appears and takes them both to the North Pole. Thinking Scott has kidnapped Charlie, Laura and Neil call the police. Scott sets out to deliver gifts with Charlie in tow. Upon arriving at Laura and Neil's home, Scott is arrested while Charlie waits for him in the sleigh. The elves eventually break him out of jail. Scott returns Charlie to his house and insists he spends Christmas Eve with Laura and Neil. His heartfelt speech to Charlie about the importance of everyone in the family convinces Laura and Neil that he is Santa. Okay. Laura burns the suspension papers and tells him he can visit anytime he wants. According to Bernard, anytime Charlie shakes his snow globe, his father will appear. Before leaving, Scott gives Laura and Neil the two presents that they never got as children, which caused their disbelief in Santa. His takeoff from the roof proves his identity to the police and various witnesses outside the house. After Scott leaves, Charlie summons him back with the snow globe, and Laura agrees to let them go together in the sleigh to finish delivering the presents.
Question.
Amen.
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 They all live happily ever
Pretty
after.
much.
With Laura and Neil, why did they get their presents? I'm just kind of curious. Were they naughty children? Did they make the naughty list, and that's
They
why
must
they
have
didn't
been.
get the presents?
Maybe their parents were poor.
Doesn't matter. Santa is real, and Santa delivers presents.
Okay. Yeah.
Then they must have been on the naughty
They
list.
must have been on the naughty. Yeah.
Or that particular Santa before he died, and he was a drunk.
Yeah, drunk Santa said, "No way, kids."
Here's something about the timing here. So here we're at Thanksgiving. So does he kidnap Charlie for a month?
Seems like it.
That's what it seems like.
It does seem like it was a month. I would agree. It's kind of, I think we're supposed to not really make that connection, but yeah, it does seem that way.
Yeah. Which that would be more serious. That would be a very serious charge, and
it's 30 to life.
Yeah, they'll shoot him on sight for that one.
I mean, first of all, he's missing all the school, so they're going to have to hold him back a year, or at least a semester. But Bernard is like, yeah, why don't you come along? Who cares about your schooling? And I think Bernard is basically should be on the naughty list right about now, because Bernard is giving them some bad information right now. And Scott should know better. Scott should know not to take him for a month.
It starts to fall apart.
I understand them maybe sneaking off for a few hours and bringing him back, but that's not what happens here. They make it try to seem like that's what happens here, but no. And we know it's Thanksgiving because he's eating the turkey, and that Scott had to be back at the North Pole on Thanksgiving.
Right. It's weird, and you can't think about it at all. Otherwise, it starts to come apart. It's like that they got to, what is it? Probably like 85 minutes in, and it's like, okay, we need to wrap this up as fast as possible. So let's don't put any thought into any of this. Yeah, we could have done without Judge Reinhold's character seeing Bernard, and then Bernard disappears, and he kind of has a freak out.
Well, that's a little bit later. That's towards the end when they already know he's Santa.
Yeah, it's silly.
Here's the thing. I was thinking about this because we were talking about this earlier. What if you replaced this thing with Scott not being able to see his son because of his wife and Neil? Why don't you make it where it's part of his job throughout the whole year that he's like in Santa training, going back and forth? He's trying to be the new Santa, but at the same time, he still wants to be a dad to Charlie. But he can't be a dad to Charlie while he's being Santa. That's probably the route that would have made more sense here. So, and then we could spend a little bit more time at the North Pole, which I think would have benefited this movie by, working with the elves, him going through maybe certain training as Santa.
It's funny you say that because I was thinking the same thing. I would have liked this to be a lot more at the North Pole, kind of like a Rocky montage of him becoming Santa.
Yeah, him jumping down chimneys and things of that nature.
Climbing the Klapa Mountains.
Him racing Rottweilers or something like that.
No, he's not racing Rottweilers. He's racing Apollo Creed. Eric brought up the Rocky montage. So
Yeah.
we have Santa running against Apollo Creed.
And I still think you have someone like Neil and Laura not believe in Santa and give him a hard time, but they give him a different type of hard time. They give him a hard time more of the sense that he's the little delusional in himself, that he thinks he's Santa or that he's not taking care of Charlie like he should. He's a bad dad. Then he shows them the reason why he's been doing what he's been doing over the last year, and then they realize he's Santa Claus. I actually don't mind Bernard showing up and Neil being all freaked out. His character is somebody who believes in like things that are real, things that are, you can touch and that are real. And I think this blows his mind. I like the fact that when they look at Scott and see Santa in his eyes, they all of a sudden go Santa. Like they have that childlike belief again. And I think that's where the movie shines, is I think they do a great job of promoting the Christmas spirit. They do trip over itself a number of times, mainly, like I said, this little subplot that we don't particularly care for. But I do think in general, I think it does a really good job of the Christmas spirit. I do like it when Scott is in interrogation and they're asking him about his name.
Yeah,
and he gives all these different names.
Yeah, that's pretty funny.
Kind of like the elves breaking him out with tinsel.
It's not just the elves, it's the ELFS. It's the SWAT team of elves.
Elves with attitudes.
So the fact that they have elves that do that, does that mean Santa gets put in prison a lot?
I think they need elves that
the pack heat.
I mean, there's a new movie called Red One where Santa gets kidnapped. So I guess they do need those specialized elves. So I guess to do these things. Everything at the end here is a little rushed. The montage with them being in the North Pole, like Eric said, why not stretch that a little longer throughout the whole movie?
I think it would have made it a stronger movie.
Would have made it feel more Christmassy.
Yeah.
Because nothing says to me Christmas like the North Pole.
You're exactly right. But here's one other thing, too. Neil and Scott's ex-wife, they should have figured out that he was Santa when they got their presents. That's when the realization should have been made that, oh my God, he's Santa. So that's just my opinion.
You don't think they should have known before?
No, have that be first and then have everything happen afterwards.
So you wanted them to know he was Santa earlier on?
No, they get their presents, and then that's like, okay, now that we have this grand realization that he's Santa, and we can see him as Santa and everything like that, and that's makes a lot more sense of why Neil would see Bernard, and it's like, okay, so they're starting to believe again. It's more of the magic of Christmas type of thing that Ken was talking about.
Yeah, I could see that.
Whereas it's, which if we go back in time, it would make a lot more sense if they're going to a judge to have visitation taken away if they only see Scott as Scott. Like when they look at him, they see Scott. They don't see he's gained weight. They don't see that he's got a beard. And you have to believe in Santa to be able to see those things. I don't know. That's just my opinion.
Fair enough.
Well, I kind of disagree with you on this because I think the idea of them looking at Santa and seeing Santa through eyes, by the eye contact, and seeing that there's something different about Scott now. I think I like that a little bit more than the presents. Hey, I got you a present, so guess what? Now you have to believe. I don't know if I like that as much as seeing Santa within Scott. I think I like that a little bit more. I understand what you're saying as far as not seeing Santa, like not seeing the weight gain and seeing the beard and stuff like that. Then everybody can't see it. Then you can't have the thing in the boardroom happen.
Or only the kids can see him.
Yeah,
because they believe in Santa. But then
you take away a cool boardroom scene, unfortunately. So that will have to go away. You have to take away the doctor scene where he's shaking his belly because the doctor wouldn't see it.
We could have done without that. I mean,
actually, I think it's funny. I think listening to the heartbeat was a little bit much when it plays a Christmas song.
Yeah,
right.
That was
a
little,
maybe a little bit much.
Yeah, but I don't know. I think that adds a little bit more of the magic to things, and that the kids lining up to sit on his lap, that would be more shocking to everybody else. why are kids, going to sit on his lap? It's,
But at the same time, see, I already questioned why parents are letting these kids go to this guy in the first place and sitting on his lap. If
because he
they
looks
all
like
see
Santa.
him as a normal person, this doesn't happen. It won't happen at all. So that scene has to be cut out altogether. But you might have a random kid here and there tell him, like you have the first kid that was trying to get a little closer,
yeah,
a little closer. Yeah, then I agree with you to a certain extent on that. I think that would have worked a little bit better, but I don't agree with you on the toy thing. I don't think getting a gift should make you believe in Santa. I think seeing Santa be Santa. Maybe if they saw that, his love for Charlie at the end, and then when they looked at inside Tim Allen's heart, they actually didn't saw Santa. They realized he is Santa. That's what we pretty much get here. I think that works a little bit better. What's your thoughts, Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I could definitely. There's a little bit of Santa in everyone. It's obviously just the Christmas spirit, a happy ending. There's a lot of different avenues this movie could have went down, but I actually, in listening to both of you, I agree with both you guys. I know. Way to fold, right? Way to fold. No, but I mean, I agree with both of you.
Thank you, King Solomon.
Yeah, right.
I don't like the fact that Charlie's shaking the globe again and trying to get his dad back right away. To me, that's another whiny little...
It would have been fine if he would have been like, I just wanted to test it and see if it worked. I think that's funny. That's funny.
Yeah. If he would have said that would have been cooler.
But then they do the corny, you don't go across the ocean.
Well, that's the other thing. Is like
George.
He comes out and lets them know, hey, you need to stay with Neil and your mom for Christmas Eve. You need to do that, and I need to do my job. And then he comes back 5 minutes later and just takes the kid.
Right.
He's like,
right. It makes no
then
sense.
Go back on your word, and do you just take the kid?
And see, and this is also the thing about, get your affairs in order in 11 months. So basically, is Scott not allowed to be dad anymore?
That's why I was saying would be the battle. Instead of having the battle between Neil and his ex-wife, the battle is being Santa Claus and being a dad.
Yeah. That's much better.
Yeah, because you can make it much lighter and still have an element of realism for the adults, right? It would be consistent with what he is at the beginning of the movie, which is the job or his son. And he's chosen the job all his life throughout the whole...
And now he's doing it again.
And now he's doing it again. That's what I think would have been a little bit of a better movie. Not saying this is the bad movie. This is actually a very good Christmas movie. And if we don't have anything else to add on this, I think it's time to go to the reviews.
Well, let's do it. Why don't you kick us off, Ken?
This is a good Christmas movie. Tim Allen is the right choice here. I like him. Would Robin Williams be better? Heck yeah. He would have been better. But Tim Allen, he pulls it off very well, especially for the first time out as a lead actor in a movie. I think we could have had a little bit better supporting cast. I would have liked to have seen some of those actors that we would have considered in place of the ones that we actually have. I feel like their characters they didn't bring anything to the table. And I like Judge Reinhold, but I think he was just blah here. I like him as Billy in Beverly Hills Cop.
Isn't he kind of a bargain basement James Spader?
Bargain basement James Spader.
Yeah, you mean like a Boston legal James Spader?
They look a lot alike. I mean,
I don't know.
Well, no. Well, let's be honest. Judge Reinhold is like supporting actor in every movie he's ever done. He's like supporting. Has he ever had a lead role?
I think like movies like Vice Versa and things of that nature.
Okay.
Yeah,
so he's never had a lead role.
Not in a good movie. It's also could be that it's not written very well. Like I said, I wish he was a little bit more mean-spirited, and maybe some bad things happen to him. Maybe if it is written in a way where he's Santa throughout the whole year, that he has a little magic here and there and does things to Neil here and there with Santa magic. And
he just kind of screws with him?
Screws with Neil throughout the whole movie. Then that would have been more fun. I think.
That's interesting.
And I think some of the other actors that could have been Neil, like I think Rick Moranis would have been a better Neil, or Ryan Stiles. I think those guys would have been better suited as Neil than Judge Reinhold. But again, I'm nitpicking a little bit here on that, but I just feel like the supporting actors don't bring much to the table. It's basically Tim Allen, and that's it. But besides that, we've talked about things that we would have changed. Them being in there doesn't kill the movie for me. I'm okay with the subplot. It's not the best idea in the world, but it moves the movie along a little bit. So I'm going to go right to my final review. It's Four Hooks. It's one of those Christmas movies that I don't mind seeing every year. I don't mind the sequels, but I don't particularly care for the TV series that came out with it. So yeah, Four Hooks for this movie.
How about you, Ted?
So I agree with Ken when he says that the supporting cast could have been stronger. I think we're limited on our scope of budget of $22 million as far as getting some other actors there. I actually think instead of Neil being more of a jerk, I think that if you had Scott be more of a jerk, it'd be more interesting. But, it doesn't have its problems, yes. I mean, here again, what movie really doesn't have its flaws? I think the writing is mediocre at best, in my opinion. I would be shocked if somebody came to me and said this is their favorite Christmas movie, because I think there's much better out there. That's just my personal opinion. That's not to discount this movie. I can understand why this is enjoyable. It's an easy watch. Just watch it and don't think about it. And just laugh when you're supposed to laugh, and have your heart tugged when your heart's supposed to be tugged, and just don't sit and think about it. And it's an easy watch, and it's an hour and a half movie. So if somebody turns this on during Christmas, it's not that big of it's not going to ruin your Christmas. For me, it's an average Christmas movie. I'll go with 2.75 hooks. It's right there. It's a little bit above average. It's better than a lot of other Christmas movies, but it's not, in my opinion, it's not top tier.
Cool. All right. Well, this movie for me is like watching paint dry. It's boring. The acting sucks. The writing sucks.
I completely understand you saying that too.
It's not a bad movie. It had so much potential. It's a movie that goes to, appeals to like 10-year-olds. No offense, Ken. It's just, I don't know. I watch it and I'm like, this movie, it's like watching a Hallmark movie, except it's got some names in it. I didn't enjoy it.
It's not a Hallmark movie.
How dare
you?
I just, you know what? I remember watching it the first time and I wasn't crazy about it. And I watched it again. I'm like, yeah, if I never watch this thing again, it's fine. I agree with you, Ted. I don't think it's anyone's favorite movie, but if you put it in the background, it'll keep the kids quiet. Not a great movie, but not the worst movie I've ever seen. It's boring. I don't know. There was nothing about this that really piqued my interest. The characters, yes, I know it's Santa Claus. I get it. But just the characters in general, the writing was just very, very poor. I know they only had $22 million. I think I know why, and I didn't say this early on, but I think I know why a bunch of those celebrities said, I think I'll pass.
They read the script.
It's a pretty poor script, but I know it's a Christmas staple. I get it. That's fine. Kids will like it and can. So for me, it's average. And I like Tim Allen, and I like Judge Reinhold. So, but it's a great movie for kids. It is a great kids movie.
And your child is dead.
Well, I guess it is, because I remember torpedoing Goonies. So my childhood is dead. Well, that's all the time we have for this episode of Hooked on Movies podcast. And as always, take your stinking paws off me, you damn dirty apes.
Ho, 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 and happy holidays.
I have a machine gun. Ho, ho, ho.
Great. Die Hard. Yeah.
See you next time on Hooked on Movies.
Bye-bye, everybody.
Merry Christmas.